There's been some times where in asking the first question, and even the second question, is it true? Maybe like the first time I could say, yes, it's true. And then it's like, can you absolutely know it's true? Um, Sometimes this happens where it's like 90% still true and maybe 10%. I could feel like a 10% no. And I'm just like I've heard Byron Katie say, like, sit in it until it's like you can, till it feels. I don't remember her exact words, but my interpretation was like, I might sit in it for a couple of days until I get to my yes or no. Well, if I sit in it for a couple of days, it's just gonna go away and I'll never come back. Maybe, I don't know. So I kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper into that spot where something isn't a clear yes or no, and there's like a genuine I don't know, or it's like I mentioned 90-10 ratio, and I can't really be full on either the yes or the no.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is probably the vast majority of statements that I question are going to fall in this category. It's going to be almost rare that I'm going to get 100% no or 100% yes. In fact, it's the interplay between yes and no and a kind of truth on both sides that makes it confusing. I think that's what brings me into doing the work sometimes. Although not always. Sometimes I'm just fully believing something, and then when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't really actually true. I was believing something. But I do find that there's a lot of mix in there. There's a lot of gray area, and I'm not 100% sure. Okay, is it a yes or is it a no? So keep in mind what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to come up with the definitive answer on this truth. We're not writing a Wikipedia article on it. We're not coming up with something that's 100% objective. What we're trying to do is come up with our own experience as much as possible. It's a process. And so we're opening up the question, is it true, to give us a chance to sit in that and see what that does to us. And it's going to kind of work us. It's going to sit there and go, well, I see this and that's true, but then there's also this, and oh my God, I don't know. Like, I don't know feels truer than yes or no. And it's just going to sit there and work you. And the more attached I am to a particular idea, the more that question is gonna rub me the wrong way because I don't want to even consider if it's true or not. Uh, I'm attached. So this question is a kind of medicine, if you will, that you put a drop of that in there and it starts to work with the stuff inside of us that is attached, that is kind of bought into the story 100%. And it just adds that little element of doubt, like, okay, are you sure? Really? Is it true? Can you know that? And the point again is not to fully disprove it or to fully say yes, it is true. The point is to sit in that. It's a meditation. It's a process. It's like you throw your clothes in the wash and then you just wash them. And this is what it does to us. It just kind of washes and agitates us and turns us in and around and I don't know. Clothes may still come out with a stain on them. I don't know. We're not trying to make it all perfect here. It's just throw it in and see what happens. And so, what do you do though? Because yes, you could spend a couple of days, and Byron Katie has invited us to do that. Spend as much time as you want. Spend days if you need to. She's done that. So that is an option, and it could be that you just carry that around and touch back on it over several days. Of like, is it really true? Yeah, perfect example of this for me. Like last Sunday, my dad wrote an email to my sisters and I saying that he thought he was getting ready to die. And we are like all like freaking out and planned trips, and we're all flying over there and everything. And then I talked to him on Wednesday, and I'm like, it doesn't sound quite as bad as what it sounded in that email. And so there's this idea, and he may be dying, I don't know, we'll find out, but there's an idea that we have, and then we believe it. And in a way, I kind of have sat in, is it true that he's dying, for the last 2 days since I talked to him on Wednesday. And it's just starting to get a little clearer, like, maybe not, or maybe certainly not dead yet. So that question, if you just hold on to it, is it true, and just let it take a few days, can do some interesting things. And so we don't have to get the work done on a schedule and be like, okay, 20 minutes in and out, and got this resolved. Like, no, if you feel to, or if it's confusing, take your time. Just take your time and say, put it on hold, the actual writing of the work or speaking of the work, and just say, I'm going to carry this one around for a little while and sleep on it and spend a few days and see what comes up. So that's one option. On the other hand, if you are wanting to just continue through and do the work in a finite amount of time, then still the same thing applies. We're just looking for our own experience. And our own experience, that's what meditation is based on, your own experience. When you're reporting, experiencing, noticing what you're actually feeling and seeing inside, then that gives you a connection to yourself. And that's the purpose of this, just to be more connected. So the thought comes in, is it true? And you're going, it's 90-10. I'm not sure. I don't really know. I would at least give it a little more time, and go with your feeling. Go with your feeling, not like intellectually, but go with, where am I landing? Where am I right now? If I had to take a snapshot of where I am with this thought right now, where would it be? And then I can take a snapshot. Maybe not the final truth, but it's closer. And I might say, okay, yeah, it's 90-10. That it's actually not true, or 90-10, like say it's true, and 10% that it's not true. Then I might just say, okay, what am I feeling here? You know what? I just have to be honest with myself. It feels true. It's close enough. There's some doubts about it, but it still feels kind of true. And I'm going to go with my true. So that's my yes. I'm saying yes. And then I'll just trust that. Go on to question 2. Question 2 is going to say, can you absolutely know it's true? And I'm sitting in there and I'm like, yeah, I can feel that yes there, but it is still kind of 90-10. And that 10 kind of just doesn't allow me to say yes to, can you absolutely know it's true? And so, okay, I can go with that. And then I'll just move on to question 3 from there. If I get to the place where I'm like, is it true? And I don't know. Like, I just don't know. There's different ways you can go with that. One is, I don't know. Well, then you can't just go out proclaiming that it's true. Like, if I didn't know something, I'm not going to get up and announce to people that this is the truth, because I don't really know. So it doesn't really feel true to me. This is my thinking here. It doesn't have to be your way, but this is what I do. I kind of think about, okay, is this where I'm at? Is this is this something that I can get behind and open up a web page about and say, yeah, this is the truth? Or is it the kind of, jury's still out, and until I have a definitive answer, maybe it's a no. But you could also do the opposite thing. Like, okay, I don't know, and jury's still out, but so for me, until I know, it still is a yes, it's true. So see how subjective this is? This is not about coming to an absolute truth that you can just say for sure this is the way. It's you listening to yourself and going with, as best you can guess, what is your truth as you see it up to this point with this. And sometimes sitting in it will change how you see. That's what makes it interesting, because just asking the question, is it true, can make you start, oh, well, okay, I thought it was true, but I'm seeing a few other things. But in the end, where do I land with that? It's a subjective thing. It's totally a subjective thing. But I have to say that landing on a yes or a no is a really important part of the experience of it, because it somehow quantifies that unbounded, nebulous feeling of confusion and don't know-ness. It just kind of says, well, I don't know, but it's somewhere I'm going to say yes. And something feels good about just landing on that. It brings it into my body more, brings it into myself more, and then keep going with it. Okay, and can you absolutely know it's true? And maybe it's a yes. Like, okay, I landed there, and I can now say that I've answered the question as best I could, and I'm ready to go on to the question 3 and question 4 and keep going like that. So what the mind loves to do, which is not inquiry, its way around inquiry, is to try to say, oh, well, I don't really know. So it stays safe in saying, okay, well, can't really know anything's true. That's one way of saying it. Or I can say, stay safe in saying, I really don't know, and so I'm just going to avoid questions 1 and 2. The mind has its little ways to try to avoid actually doing the inquiry. And I know many people, and I've done it too, where you just kind of almost skip over questions 1 and 2. It's like, those are kind of, they're I don't know where that's going. It just doesn't make sense. Let's get over that quickly. Or it's just yes, 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 or yes, yes, no. Let's just get out of the question as quickly as possible, and then I'll get into question 3. I can really get into that. So the purpose of question 1 and 2 probably is to make us a little uncomfortable and to make us kind of stand in a place where we don't know and try to make sense out of it. It's like a researcher. If they start researching something that they don't know anything about, there's going to be more questions than answers in the beginning, and they're going to be like, and it might be frustrating for someone if they need a definitive answer. But a true researcher is going to take their time with that and just let those questions percolate, and over time answers begin to emerge, and they may change and reverse themselves, and there may be all kinds of evolution to the theories that come out. All that's allowed is just keep an open mind. That's what questions 1 and 2 are asking us to do. It's like, keep an open mind, see what we can do, see if we can find some thing that makes some sense, and it challenges us. Okay, can you boil it down into a yes? Can you boil it down into a no? And that's a challenge. It's a challenge. So yeah, those are my main thoughts on that. The other thing is, that's just the truth area. Yes and no. I'm sorry. Questions 1 and 2 is about whether it's true or not. That's one aspect that can start to loosen our grip on a stressful thought. If it's not true, it's kind of hard to hold on to it. But whether or not we got anywhere with questions 1 and 2, questions 3 and 4 is more on the level of, what's the effect of that thought on us? Does it bring peace or stress? And if it's always bringing stress, then that's also gonna loosen my attachment to the thought. So if one dimension doesn't give me much, then the other dimension may give me something. So you can't lose in a way. Even if you did skip questions 1 and 2, you still got questions 3 and 4 that are going to do a lot for loosening that attachment before you go into the turnarounds. But questions 1 and 2, bottom line is, they're an opportunity to look at what you believe and see if there's more, see if you're missing anything, and you are walking into the unknown every time you ask those questions, and they're not easy answers. They're not going to just pop. Just it's it's a process. It's a research process. And even don't be fooled by the simplicity of the yes and no. Like the analogy I give of the jury, they give a yes or no answer, but they spend hours in deliberation. They spend days in listening to the trial. They spend a lot of time and attention to come out with a yes or a no. So, in a way, the yes or no ultimatum makes us take it seriously. It makes us have to really think about it deeper, as opposed to just like, well, yeah, I don't really know. It's probably true, but I'm not going to look too closely. This makes us look closely, and that's the point.
Yeah, that helped me bring to light this tendency I have had a few times where, let's say it's the 90% yes and the 10% no. There's almost like a part of me that is like stretching to get that no, because I don't want the thing to be true. Like, but my ego also doesn't want the thing to be true. Um, so that your answer helped me kind of feel that stretching thing and delineate, like, okay, that feels like I want it to force. That's feeling like I want to grab onto the no, um, to bypass something.
That's right. Then you're kind of, you may be jumping ahead of your own evolution, like, oh, I want it to be no, and no is the more enlightened answer, or whatever, however you want to phrase that. And but the reality is there's a part of me, like the real part of me is saying, no, it's yes. I believe that. I'm attached to that. That's my experience. And even though it's wiser to have a no answer, the actual true wise answer is to stick with my own answer, to be true to myself. And so, yeah, if you're stretching is good. This questions do stretch us, and it's important to kind of allow ourselves to be stretched. But when after getting stretched, see where you actually are, and don't pretend that you've stretched further than you've stretched.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, honesty is the best policy. I love it when a client goes yes to question one and yes even to question two, and I'm like, wow, I love your honesty and your integrity in just being, not trying to do it right. I think that's really important. So, yeah, if you listen to yourself, you will find your answer is coming from your heart more than your mind, although the mind may also present things that are enough to connect with the heart and change the heart as well. So, yeah, you're venturing into the unknown with this question, and there are a million ways to do it, and there's no real right way other than be honest with yourself. That's anything else is you're playing a game with yourself if you're not being honest. So just be honest, be authentic as best you can, and if you need more time, take more time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question.